All right, thanks everybody. Just to kick things off, let's start with the bonuses. The fight of the night was obviously Islam and Volk. Performance bonuses go to Jack Della and Yair. The gate tonight broke the Australian arena record, so highest grossing event for any arena in Australia across any content, concerts, sports, exhibitions, whatever. The attendance was 14,124, fully sold out, with a gross total in Australian dollars of 5,911,598. Two transports tonight, Pedro and Seamus. And that's it from my side. Any questions from you guys?
Yeah,
Mike?
right here. Well, phenomenal crowd tonight. I mean, you've been all over the world and seen so many of these events. Where does tonight's rank in your pound-for-pound list?
I mean, pound for pound best, pretty high on the list. I mean, the place was deafening. Like, I feel like I've been at listen to my voice, I feel like I've been at like a Metallica concert just sitting in front of the speakers. It was great. It was great. We went through, a few of us in the back, just going through some of the really memorable events over the last, 12 months at least, and thinking about London last March and Paris, a few of the Vegas events, and this is right up there. It was loud. I think it was 50% full before the first fight happened, and then 90% full during the prelims, early prelims. So it was an incredible week after not having been here for over 3 years. And one of the things that, we've got this relationship with the Tourism Western Australia, TWA, and we do a lot of work trying to figure out, the impact of the event, right? There's a lot of discussions around the impact from an economic perspective, how many people are coming to Perth, and not only did we have an out-of-state ticket purchase percentage of about 68%, but we had thousands of people that are coming to Perth even without a ticket. So I think how much this event was coveted across the country, I think is a testament to how far mixed martial arts has come, all across the country, not just WA, and something that certainly gives us so much confidence coming back, hopefully as soon as possible.
Yeah, and this is kind of two questions in one. When are you looking at a return? And Alex, in his post-fight interview, said something, I believe it was really loud, about Adelaide and Yair. Did he tip?
Did you say Adelaide?
Yeah, did he tip something off there? Or?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so because we haven't made a decision yet on what the next event is. But just in speaking to Mick just now, the brilliance of just these guys and the way they put the card together and thinking about the opportunities for not only other Aussie athletes and where they're going to compete in the next 6 months, but the fact that Yair's had such a brilliant performance and now he's up against Alex. You basically got UFC Countdown sort of produced already with all the footage that came out of those two fights. So not sure the timing of our return or the timing of that event in particular, that fight in particular, but we will definitely be here at some point again this year.
Well, what about the flip side of that? You now have, I know Yair is an interim champion, but two Mexican champions essentially. Is there a possibility of going back to Mexico and maybe bringing Yair there for this fight? Yeah,
Lawrence has been talking about that for a while. We want to get the Performance Institute open. We announced that earlier this week, the Performance Institute in Mexico City, and I'm not really sure about the timing, probably later this year, but at some point or in and around that launch or in that opening, it's going to make sense to go to Mexico City.
Last thing from me, kind of, away from that little location question, any updates on Canada? Is the Canadian asking here? Are we going to get there anytime soon?
Two good buds just chatting.
Yeah, tell me. No one's watching.
Yeah, no, there's no update. We've got nothing to report at the moment, but we've been very clear. I think every time that we've chatted, it's only a matter of weeks probably until we announce something.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Looking back when dominant champions fought in their hometown, like when Stipe won in Cleveland and he never went back, people always thought, why did we never go back to Cleveland with Stipe? Can you bring Alex anywhere else outside of Australia after witnessing what we did tonight?
I think there's, one of the things that Hunter was mentioning in the back was the fact that stock's never been higher. So it wasn't even a Pyrrhic victory, right? Because he didn't seem to take a ton of damage. I know he was on the ground quite a bit, but the fact that his stock rose by virtue that he took Islam 5 rounds. I'm sure a ton of people had on their scorecards that he was up 3-2 and not down 3-2. So I think we can take him wherever. Now, if the question is, does it make most sense to always have him here, then yeah, there's a big argument for the impact that he made across the country this week. Our pay-per-view buys in Australia were trending to be bigger than our pay-per-view buys in Australia when Conor fought, right? So the impact of Volk and numerous others, including Jack Daly, who had like an incredible performance as well, I think it makes a lot of sense to come back, right? We're still in this world of this is one of our principal pay-per-view territories around the world, and so from a promoter standpoint, it's important to have him in an area where he can make the most impact, not only from a brand perspective, but also so we can continue to reach new high water marks on the revenue side.
And on the flip side of that, I know you don't make the matchups or anything, but at what point do you start bringing like non-Australian superstars onto these cards? Like as much as they love Jack and Rob and Ty and Alex, like I'm sure people here would love to watch like Jorge Masvidal fight or like Leon Edwards fight. Like at what point do you bring non-Australian stars here?
I mean, we look at it as it's a luxury that we've got so many competitive and so many high-quality Australian athletes, and you see the impact. I mean, the Yair and Emmett fight was great, but it was an incredible fight. It didn't have the same resonance with the crowd as the rest of the Aussies competing or the Kiwis competing. So how long? I mean, we had Rousey in home, and I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot. Fatigued after this event, man. I feel like I've just gone 5 rounds with Islam, I think there's a real opportunity. There's one thing you saw that over the years you can sense that the understanding and appreciation for mixed martial arts has continued to rise almost every time we've come back, right? And there were just small kind of nuances, slight adjustments in position, slight holds on attempted subs where if someone made that move, the fan base almost unanimously started to cheer, right? They understood exactly what was happening in a very precise and acute way, and I think that's a testament to how far the sport has come here. So could we bring other global stars? 100%. But when you've got great Australians or New Zealanders that can compete, it also makes sense. It's almost been an embarrassment of riches, right? You've had Izzy and Rob and Volk and Ty, and the list goes on. We're in this really great period of mixed martial arts in Australia.
I don't know if this is you're the right guy for this question necessarily, but a lot of fans are saying that ticket pricing is crazy for events like this, events like London. I'm curious, is that something that you guys set, or is that Ticketmaster dynamic pricing we've heard about a lot recently, and how much do you have to do with those prices?
Yeah, I mean, we scale the venue, right? But we scale the venue based on data points and education on what the market can bear at the moment. Did it make sense to bring this fight to Optus, to the stadium here? I mean, possibly. There's probably 5,000 or 10,000 people that came into the city that didn't have tickets. So could we have scaled up to 30 or 40? I think the demand would have been there. It obviously would have changed the average ticket price, but I think there was an opportunity, given the demand, just to scale it appropriately. So this is driven by our our knowledge of what the market can bear at the moment.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know, where does Australia rank in terms of countries that you have to work with in bringing events? Australia, for its size, seems to get relatively quite a lot of UFC events. Is it because the government is so transparent with working with you guys, tourism? What actually makes it so easy?
So, working with state governments in this country in more of a partnership way is a relatively new thing. And I think the affinity and the interest and the desire for global events, whether it's sports or music or food or fashion festivals, whatever it might be, is heightened in Australia because, one, people love events in this country, and two, it's far, right? It takes a lot to, it's helpful for promoters or other managers of tours or sports events, to make it here. It wasn't long ago that we were fighting or working with to educate state governments around the health and safety protocols and practices that we've got in our sport, why the octagon is a better, field of play than a boxing ring. And so a lot of that work and that education, I think, has gone into the development of just the understanding of our sport, right? We want to work closely. We've always talked about this concept of running to regulation to ensure that not only are we working with state governments to educate them about our sport, but also about the proper rules that govern mixed martial arts here. So I think recently there's been much more constructive and productive conversations with local governments around how we can partner on events, and this week working with the Tourism Western Australia was a good example of that.
And if I could just ask you a question, once again, I don't know if you're the right guy for this either, but when Islam commented on the lack of promotion for this event, do you know what? Because obviously it was huge. Like, you heard it tonight. Everyone's talking about it. People that don't have tickets are watching it somewhere. Do you know why he might have thought that?
I have no idea. I mean, I haven't talked to him about it. I don't know the root cause of that. What I do know is that, this is one of these events, and Dana and Sean and Mick and Hunter have been talking about it for months. Like, you don't get many opportunities to have the pound for pound number 1 and 2 together, right? Like, it's an overused cliche, but the stars really do need to align, right? You've got to have the right athletes at the right time of their careers. You've got to have, a venue that makes sense, right? To bring it to Australia was absolutely perfect for us. And then you've obviously got to have at least weight classes where they're within one weight class of each other. And so this was the perfect circumstance where you've got two guys that, and it turned out to be an absolutely brilliant fight. So I'm not sure what the impetus or sort of the cause or the objective of those comments were. I certainly didn't agree with it.
Thank you.
Can I just ask over here, Mitch from over here. We're really excited over in WA about Jack Della Maddalena. We just saw, he's not a one-trick pony, gone from knockouts to now submission. Where does the UFC sort of see him in the next 12 months? And he says he wants a top 15 welterweight now.
So it's a tough conversation or tough topic for me to comment on because it's not, within my purview. I know talking to Sean and Mick, these guys think that he's the real deal. What that means on his next bout, I've got no idea. Will he get a top 15? I think his performance, like Randy Brown's no joke. I think his performance tonight probably warrants something like that, but not for me to comment. But I think it's a pretty safe bet that he's going to continue to rise up the ranks.
And you just spoke about, this stadium and this arena, and how full it was. Jack sort of mentioned that one day his dream is to hold a big fight here. We've got a big stadium down the road that can seat close to 50. I know it's outdoors. Mm-hmm. Is something like that even possible for somewhere over here, considering what you saw tonight?
You've got good precedents in this country, right? With a couple in Melbourne, Etihad, Marvel. So we're not going to rule it out. At some point, it might make sense. We don't do a lot of them. We've done sort of 5 or 6 in the past. But, if there's one country that can handle it, it's probably this country.
Thanks.
Does having such successful events in Australia detract from the likelihood of there being events in New Zealand? Because Australia's just more scalable?
No, our events in New Zealand have been incredible. Yeah, no, not at all.
When would be the likelihood of the next kind of event coming in?
Could be this year. Yeah. We're trying to, from an event perspective, and I've spoken to a few guys about this in the past few months, we are getting back to pre-COVID levels in terms of the proportion of international events that we have on our overall. We're not going to get all the way back there this year, but we will get back there at some point in the next year or two. And that likely means 2 or 3 events in Australia and New Zealand every year.
Cool, thank you.
No worries.
Just one more. Going off that, once you do get back to pre-COVID levels, once you say, as you hope, how many UFC events do you think would still be at the Apex?
That's a good question. I think the Apex is always going to be in the mix now. It makes a lot of sense. We kind of turn off the lights and lock the doors when the event's over. And it's, it makes sense from an ease of operations. It also makes sense as a good fallback plan. If we have something that just doesn't work out in a venue, or if it's tough to get to a certain city we want to get to, we can always go to the Apex. I think there's a lot of advantages to it. So I don't know the number, but I think it'll always be in the mix. We really appreciate everyone's support. It's huge for us to come back to Australia, and it's really important for us to put on a good show. And I think the work that you guys all did was incredibly helpful in promoting the event across the country and around the world. We're pretty excited with the results this week, not only in the octagon but outside. So appreciate all your support, guys. Thank you.